Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover the last 2 weeks of tournament results. So we had the last few BSFs as well as some of the WGPs and the other tournaments happening around the world, such as the WGP in Sapporo. There's a few VGCSs, and I think I want to bring up one that is the Rygeeki VGCS, which features the new premium landscape introducing history collection as well. So we're going to go through all the deck lists there and then see what is changing in that format. If you guys need any coaching, feel free to hit me up on my Metafy. My link is in the bottom right hand corner. Bookings are being made at the moment, so feel free to book a session and then we can get started on your BCS season. So just starting off, we have Malaysia standard. So each team brought a Jet, each team brought an EVA. We were not in DBT 10 meta at this point. So the first place team brought an EVA, Jet, and Overlord. And then second team, this was Hongwai's team, X2 drop again. Funnily enough, they came second the day before, so this was played on day 2. Their team brought EVA, Jet, and Lutetia. Third place was Sentinels with Jet, EVA, Welstra, and the Malaysian buddies with Jet, EVA, and Overlord. So congratulations to all the players there. And then, like I said, so Malaysia V Premium, so this is where Hongwai also came second, but Lim's team came first with Luard, Ange, and Leopold, probably the most meta lineup that you could probably bring for V Premium. And then Hongwai's team again with Leopold, Ange, and Shahara Amon. So big congratulations to him. And then Burden United coming third with Leopold, Ashley, and Astropoet. And then fourth week, John Week with Ange, Vanquisher, and Tharvis. Then we also had Premium. So Caesar Cards, big shout out to Gav for coming first place again in Premium this time. So his team brought Jet Maiden, Overlord, and Tharvis. Pretty interesting that Overlord was brought for this team composition. And then second place was Jet Maiden, Tharvis, and Chaos. Third was Just Dessert with Rising, Angel Gize, and Sweep Command, so Eradicators. And then Hangpa Bia Betui No with Reindeer, Jet Maiden, and Gradora. So I think Jet Maiden at the moment seems to be, probably an instant pick for a lot of these team compositions. But let's just have a look at some of the deck lists, so especially the Overlord one. The Overlord one is pretty interesting. So generally we copy the end, but this one copies Rebirth. And what you do is essentially use the damage exploders to get up to 5, heal down with your 3 Vanguard attacks, and then pretty much you return everything back to deck and you're pretty much back on 0 damage, which is pretty interesting. And it gives you 3 swings without the loss of drive checks, whereas the end it does. So, you gotta kind of count how many exploders you have, how many you have access to, and then essentially go from there. Starting with the grade 0 Conroe to essentially search out any of your ones. So if you need counter charge, you have Conroe to find your, the X. Or if you need the damage exploder, then you grab that. But pretty interesting that you run the Dragon Tree Wretch. Looking at the top 5 and core grade 1, I guess then you can call the damage exploder and then pretty much shoot yourself to 5 damage. But otherwise the G-Zone is the same, so pretty interesting concept for that. And yes, it is a Caesar card special. Haven't seen this particular deck before, so very cool innovation. And then just looking at the Angel Gize, playing a Gavrail engine. Usually it's Hamiel, but I guess more rescue check is good. And then pretty much running everything under the sun in terms of rescue checking. Just your stock standard Angel Gize with Bikuns, with a lot of restanding Vanguards nowadays, like Heltrata, Overlord even. Bikun really does help. So yeah, that's the Angel Gize list. Then we jump to BSF London. So first was Jet, EVA, and MINERVA. Second was Overlord, Youth, and Flagberg. A very interesting lineup. And then third was Italian Knights with Jet, EVA, and Youth. And then fourth, you hit me with the bagel with Jet, EVA, and Welstra. Congratulations to all the teams there. And then V Premium. So first team, no Hyperbolic Paraboloid. Coming first with Dantarian, Giraffa, and Astropoet. Pretty interesting to me, if I gotta say so myself. And then second place was Fenrir, Luard, and Tharvis. Third was Astropoets, Overlord, and Tharvis. And then Rulebook. We've seen this team over and over again over the last season. Fourth place with Glendios, Battle Sisters, and Anj. Just looking at the Dantarian list, funnily enough, it's Dantarian on Mon, so really focusing on the Mon, but I'm not too sure why the Dantarian's there. You could probably replace it with something else, maybe like Shaharats. Oh, okay. So okay, right, hear me out. Shaharats on money, yeah, sure. Okay, give you that. So yeah, I mean, otherwise, yeah, the deck is pretty straightforward. Mass Soul Charge with this, get to your thresholds, and then, yeah, call it a day. So yeah, that was the Dantarian list. And then looking at the Giraffe, so this list ran with the reverse. I actually have no idea what this deck does. But yeah, very cool to see that, you know, Giraffe finally got a top. This is probably one of the sickest reverse arts, I gotta say. The albino bug, really, really cool. So yeah, and then jumping into premium, this is where everything is just kind of standardized already. So the first place bought Jet Maiden, Nightmare Doll, and Reindeer, similar lineup to the lineup that I brought for Indonesia. And then second place was Dialiner, Jewel Knights, and Thavas. Third was Jet Maiden, Eradicators, and Gridora. And then fourth place was Jet Maiden, Reindeer, and Gridora. So congratulations to all the teams at BSF London. Now jumping to WGP in Singapore. So the distribution, top 8 distribution, 2 Willistas, 2 Chrono Jets, 1 Gandiva, Eva, MLB, and Mushi King. And then looking at the top 4 distribution, Willista coming first, second was Mushi King, third was Gandiva, fourth was Chrono Jet. Pretty interesting to see Mushi King making a pretty big impact, and we'll see a little bit later on with the WGPs and some of the other, Japanese format tournaments that Mushi King is actually making quite a big impact, as well as some of the other new decks that recently came out as well. Just jumping to WGP in Hong Kong. So first place was Willissa, second was Gandiva, and then third and fourth were both taken by Ebisu. Ebisu is still good. So yeah, definitely a deck to test if you are playing the JP format. Then we have BCL, so Bushiroad China League in Guangzhou. 4 Ebisus in top 8. That is pretty disgusting, with 3 Minervas and 1 Hex Orb. And then just looking at the top 4, so first place brought Ebisu, second and third were Minerva, and then fourth was Ebisu. Then they also had a 3v3 tournament. So the first place team brought Willista, Minerva, and Jet. Second was Minerva, Ebisu, and Gandiva. Third was Mushi King, Gandiva, and Welstra. And then fourth was Minerva, Gandiva, and Ebisu. So one trend I really want to point out is that there's a lot of Minervas recently. And I'll just show you a list that was part of the 3v3. So with the inclusion of the new PR as well as the new RR, really amplifies the consistency of this deck, as well as the cycle card. So essentially these two PR, well, the PR and the RR allows you to recycle Genesis cards, which is like super important, because once you use your Chamomiles and your Melissas, then they're kind of gone forever. But also you can recycle your Minervas back to hand. I think this grade 1 allows you to, and it puts like the column into Soul, and then you grab like a Genesis back to hand. So you essentially have automatic access to Persona rides. And I think the grade 1 also, when it's placed on rearguard, Canvas 1, Soul plus 1, you draw a card, and then call a card equal or less than your Vanguard in the same column. Something like that. So which means that, you know, you can play super aggressive in the early game, because, you know, the counterblast doesn't really matter, especially if you're going first. You can't restand because the Minerva is locked behind your opponent being on grade 3. But as well, you know, this card is pretty crazy. It's like, you know, place on rearguard, look at top 3, put 1 card into Soul, and then rest the bottom. So, you know, you have constant deck compression, and then, you know, after it attacks, Soul plus 1, retire it. Choose a Genesis card and put it into Soul or something like that. Yeah, it's just like really, really good. Now that, you know, these Genesis cards have a lot of synergy together, and, you know, have ways to deck compress, which means that your restands are actually deadlier. And then interesting enough to run the over trigger that salvages, which means that, you know, you have access to more of the good stuff, you know, more Angelicas, more Minervas, and yeah, just cards to be able to refill your Soul. And then pretty much the good thing about this is that I think it's like after attack, you can retire it, which means that you free up a slot, so you don't actually lose a neg 1. when you're calling out Chamomile, which is super, super important. And you know, it's all utility, really, really good. So I think MINERVAs are being brought because it's a very, very consistent deck. And sometimes in a long tournament, you just need to play something consistent. And you know, if you show enough triggers, you just pretty much win. So yeah, interesting to see how the standard format kind of warps with the PR and the RR. So that's probably something that we should probably look out for once, you know, English gets the PR and the RR as well. Then we had Japan Card Fest in Thailand. So first place was Face Gang. Big shout out to them. I know that they're part of Different Rights community. First place team brought the Willista, Leonorn Mask, and MINERVA. Second was Overlord, MINERVA, and Zorga Mask. Third was Jet, Messiah, and Gandiva. And then fourth was Gandiva, Ebisu, and Willista. So just checking the Leonorn Mask deck. This is probably, I think, one of the first Leonorn tops in a while, or if ever. Pretty interesting, you know, for Dianthas. This is actually a Diantha. And then the grade 2 Riptide, I think that's what it's called. Essentially, if you Persona Ride, you Solos 1, give it and another unit 10k. So essentially, you buff up your boosters. And then because Leonorn restands 2 of your rear guards after she battles, it makes the boosters super big, so meaning all the sides are pretty big too. But I'm not too sure if it's... I'm pretty sure it's not locked to back row either. So you can actually restand 2 front rows if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. Otherwise, the deck is pretty interesting. Running the Zorga grade 2 so that you can salvage orders. And then you're playing 4 of the new order that counts as a unit if you search for it. And then if it goes to the bin, or discard it essentially, then it returns back to hand, and then you can play it as an order for top 7 core 1. So again, deck compression just makes the deck work like a charm. So yeah, really, really cool concept of the deck. Probably something that I'll test out and play around with. Then we had Crow's Nest VGCS. So this was a premium format with no overtrigger. And we can see that, you know, it's very diverse, 8 different decks. And, you know, I think premium would be in a really great place without the overtrigger. And I'm sure a lot of the players here, you know, really enjoyed the tournament because, you know, overtriggers aren't, you know, warping any of like the games, and it's pretty much down to skill. So yeah, very, very cool to see. So big shout out to Crow, amazing community leader over there, doing his thing. And yeah, very, very cool to see some results. And the top 4, so first was Arads, second was Jet Maiden, third was Night Rose, and fourth was MINERVA. So big shout out to him again and all the people who topped. Very, very cool to see. Then we had the Vanguard Deluxe in Sapporo with the introduction of Token Rambu. Funnily enough, Token Rambu had quite a big impact. So we had 1 Munichika and then 3 Kashus coming in, and then, you know, we see a huge drop or a significant drop in Ebisu, or maybe a consistent, I guess, every team was consistent to bring Ebisu, to bring Willista, to bring Gandiva. You know, like I said before, there's like MINERVAs, and you know, you still have all your good stuff like your Jets, your Evas, and you know, so on and so forth. And then just looking at the team composition, so first place team brought Ebisu, MINERVA, and Mushiking. Second was the Kashu, Ebisu, and Lutetia. And then third was Jet, Willista, Gandiva. And then fourth place was MINERVA, Gandiva, and Jet. Again, we see MINERVA come up, and MINERVA wasn't too impactful, you know, prior to the PRs and the RRs. So obviously, you know, making a huge impact once they get those 2 additions to the deck as well. Then the last of the Spring Fests before we jump to the BCS season very, very soon. So Singapore coming first for standard was a Jet, Overlord, and Youthberg. Second was Luxac with Gandiva, Messiah, and Jet. And this is in DBT 10 meta. So, you know, Gandivas is, you know, the cool stuff right now. Third place brought a Jet, Gandiva, and Lutetia. And then fourth place was Jet Eva and Gandiva. Then jumping into V. So funnily enough, this is big shout out to Sean Chua and Dane. They're players from the Philippines, very, very good players. They took first place in V Premium and Premium back-to-back days. Absolutely busted team. So their team came first for V, taking Leopold, Anj, and Tawa. So this was the lineup that we brought for Sydney. Very, very cool to see. Second place was Leopold, Luard, and Astral Poets. Third was Himiko, Leopold, and Shaharat. And then fourth place was Leopold, Tabas, and Anj. So, you know, congratulations to everyone who topped this tournament, as well as looking again into premium. So their team also came first again, Sean Chua's team. So this was Arads, Jet Maiden, and Tabas. Second place was Arads, Jet Maiden, and Rising. Third was Jet Maiden, Dieliner, and Night Rose, and then Caesar cards. So I'm pretty sure this was Gav's team. So Shun, Gav, and Elson coming fourth with the Gridora, Rising, and Jet Maiden. Very, very cool to see. But these are all the decks that, you know, we've seen pop up for the BSF season. And yeah, nothing too unfamiliar in this territory. But as we move to the BCS season, this is where it gets spicy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this Rygeeki VGCS and just kind of the landscape of it. So we have the new history collection, which essentially gives us access to all the old G grade 3s. And the beauty of that is that if you're running the G grade 3s, because you're not getting a gift, you can stride into an errated stride, which gives you 2 gifts. And you can see how diverse premium is, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from various people that it's pretty much the wild, wild west. Any deck can win, any deck can top, any deck is viable. So if you guys are looking into getting into premium history collection, this is your starting point. Make sure you start now. And yeah, this is pretty much a perfect time for you to come in, because any deck is viable, and you know, you get to cook a little bit, you know, start testing against techs and stuff. A very cool, you know, environment to kind of immerse yourself in. So the first place team for this VGCS brought Susanoo, Chaos, and Vanquisher. So the G Vanquisher, we'll look at the deck in a sec. Second place was Dieliner, Glendios, and Harry. So I had a pick of the Harry deck. It ran like the V Jacqueline, which had Magia dolls, so nothing super fancy, no denial players or anything like that. Just Magia dolls straight up Harry with the V Harry, so no G Harry, so no super crazy stuff. Third place was a Night Rose, Hanzo, and NLK. NLK is, you know, still NLK, super strong deck, so I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. And in fourth place was Chronojet, Beatrice, and Asura Kaiser. So just gonna look at some of the decks, and I picked some of the interesting ones, especially the ones that had a little bit more flavor, I guess. So just looking at the Susanoo one, so this plays the old Susanoo, which means that you can essentially stride into Kirin, giving you 2 protects, and then on hit, I think it's like top 2, add 1 to hand, rest to bottom. So that means that, you know, when you go first, you go up, you essentially get what, +3, just by, you know, getting 2 protects, getting an on-hit draw as well, and then pretty much transitioning into the witch stuff. So I think this restands or something like that, but not too sure on the specifics. But running the Tsukuyomi ride line for consistency, and then Kaliko with Amaterasu is still a very, very strong combo, especially if you're, you know, going into Ichikishima, the stride that carries OTT. Very, very strong combination, and we know that from, you know, previous OTT builds. But yeah, and then playing one of the Regalis piece, which is quite interesting, you know, calling 2 grade 3s out to Riga, so you can actually call your Popos once you get your deck low enough, and then pretty much guard district, unguardable attacks. Yeah, so very, very cool concept. And then just looking at the Jet deck, so we know what Jet Maiden is in the current format. So this deck ran the normal Jet, so the G Jet, and then essentially running the Lost Age Dragon to stride into to get 2 forces, and then on hit bottom deck something, but it's more just the 2 forces, but then also running 4 Mazer Gears, which means that you can have access to the crest as well, but no time leak pieces, which is quite interesting. And then playing 4/4/4 of this, I guess, Enterana package with the Ribble, to find, you know, your maiden pieces, but I'm not too sure if that's consistent enough. I feel that a lot of the time you will miss with your cat, so I'm actually not too sure. But running the D Steam Breath so that you can find your Chronojets, really, really cool inclusion, because you can actually choose which jet to use, and then running one of the next stage to combo with Grog Grok. ride down, and then, you know, do your shenanigans. So yeah, very, very interesting deck. I gotta say, there's probably gonna be a little bit more development. I know, because I know Dave Vec and some of the GC fanatics out there, they're gonna be cooking up some, you know, some gas stuff. I, you know, can't actually wait to see some of the stuff that, you know, they bring to the BCS season. And then looking at the Vanquisher list. So this one, very orientated going first. You know, you ride into your Vanquisher, then you go into your Zoros, and then Zoros essentially binds one or retires one or something like that. But then you have access to your Esperadias, and then, you know, if you're going second, then you're playing Sweep Command and playing an Eradicator deck anyways. So nothing actually changes, just the fact that you're splashing in 4 grade 3s to, you know, accommodate for going first, so you no longer need to play the grade 2 game. And, you know, as you can see, they've taken out Spark Rays, if they even played Spark Rays, and just note that in the JP format, Full Bronto is actually banned, so hence why we don't see that in the deck. But yeah, you know, why need a grade 2 game when you're gonna ride up, get your stride anyways, and then if you go second, you're running into Sweep Command and you have to battle with your opponent's, you know, stride or whatever, and if they don't play a stride, then well, too bad, right? You get to stride first. So yeah, pretty cool, interesting, you know, concept of this deck. You know, it's just Eradicators splash with, you know, 4 Vanquisher grade 3s and then 2 of the on-hit strides, so that, you know, if you ever go first, you just jump. And then just looking at the last deck, which is Night Rose. So funnily enough, I'm surprised that this Night Rose plays it this way, just because that you can actually fish for your, you know, your 1 of grade 3 or your 2 of G Night Rose. So that, you know, if you ever go first, then you can jump up, and then, you know, having the V1 to ride down into after like a bad bounty or something like that. But I guess it doesn't really matter if you're focusing on Bartolomeo as your finisher, but otherwise everything else just kind of stays as a normal ground blue deck. And yeah, that's pretty much all the lists we have over the past 2 weeks. Lots of information, lots of, you know, different concepts and different environments just kind of warping everywhere, and just kind of seeing how, you know, each of the formats evolve. Really, really interesting stuff. And if you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of all the formats at the moment. What are your most interesting lists that you've seen in this video, or, you know, some lists that you might, you know, find somewhere else. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed the Rygeeki VGCS results. So yeah, all of the premium stuff there is very, very spicy. If you guys haven't, pop a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.